Is now moving to mandate that kindergarten teachers teach 5-year-olds 15 different genders in every single California kindergarten school. 15 different genders being presented to 5-year-olds. Talk a little bit about this story.
Yeah, so this is the update to their health education framework. And, I mean, people need to look through the materials here that we've talked about. You have stuff like teaching the kids that adults guess what gender a baby is because babies can't talk. It is absolute insanity masquerading as education, and it's sick.
So to make sure we understand what's happening here, the state of California has recommended, and when California recommends something, that means they want it in there. They've recommended a book for 5-year-olds to begin to comprehend the complicated nature of gender. As a matter of fact, in this book, you're teaching 5-year-olds 15 different gender variants. The title of the book, by the way, is called Who Are You? Inside the book, they say, quote, for some people, there are more than just two choices. These are a few of the words people use, and you're exposing 5-year-olds to these kinds of gender differentiations: trans, genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid, transgender, gender neutral, agender, neutrois, bigender, third gender, two-spirit, whatever the hell that means, and even more words on the word salad spectrum. These are kids that cannot read. These are kids who don't understand the biological underpinning of masculine and feminine or male and female. These are kids who are simply basically trying to come to grips with their own physicality in terms of their bodies. Their minds have not developed abstract thinking yet, and yet you're going to hit them with things like bigender, two-spirit gender, agender. This is an impossibility for little kids. You are doing nothing at age 5 but putting words in their heads, forcing them to understand things that adults only understand. You're guiding them along a path of indoctrination that is staggeringly inappropriate.
Yeah, well, that's the insanity that we're dealing with now, and we see that it's very effective. If you look at, we covered at the Freedom Project in the Newman Report, we covered a study out of the UCLA where more than 25% of California children between 12 and 17 are now gender non-conforming. So, they're not comfortable, they don't identify with their biological gender. So I guess they thought 27% was not enough.
If you recall, National Geographic was honored by making history with a new cover where they put a small child, either a boy or a girl, a male or a female. It's tough to tell, and I don't actually recall. The reason I'm running through this again is I've gotten a lot of questions lately asking about the article links to this. The American College of Pediatricians, Best for Children, notice the little symbol up top, they published an article several years ago, and then they updated it again on August 17th, 2016, where it explained things straight up. Even though this doesn't need an explanation, they explained it straight up and down. I'll leave links in the description. How no one is born with a gender. Everyone is born with a biological sex. Did you see that? Do you see that? Everyone is born with a biological sex. Gender, an awareness and sense of oneself as male or female, is a sociological and physiological concept, not an objective biological one. And yet, every single solitary day, this is foisted upon your children. And it's relentless. This is from Rebel Circus. 15 gender-fluid celebs you need to know. Well, maybe you don't know them, but I'll tell you what. Where do you think this young lady came from? She came out of the Disney machine. Look at this. Do you remember Hannah Montana? Do you remember this little girl? Well, that's her now. And she's gender fluid. As is this thing, Tilda Swinton, and this person. They need people to accept this. And for the most part, they have. Walk down the street. Go into a mall, go into a store, go out in public and look around. First of all, to finish their experiment or their great work, they have to demasculinize men. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. And anyone that isn't a gender fluid, demasculinized man is targeted, victimized, or labeled. You see what I'm saying? This is the agenda. This is their goal. This is their God. This is who they worship to. Now, if you remember, or maybe you don't, I walked into the Satanic Temple's headquarters and videotaped this actual sculpture straight up. This is it right here in Salem, Massachusetts. And notice, hanging right out the window is the rainbow flag, because that's all part of the agenda. They call this art. I explain in this video, which I'll leave links to in the bottom. If you haven't seen this, I put this up in May of 2017, and it's a walk through the entire building and everything that surrounds it. But I digress. What's important here, it isn't just some asshole with a laptop, meaning me, that thinks this. This is the American Society of Pediatricians that are explaining this stuff. This is bad business. Bad business. It seems like a place like the American College of Pediatricians should carry some weight. This should be being taught in schools right now, and yet it isn't whatsoever at all. They're using propaganda against us. I showed you this right here. The Smith-Mundt Act was repealed. Americans should be in the street burning effigies and raising pitchforks about this. The fact that our government has flipped the Smith-Mundt Act around, they are allowed to use propaganda against their own people. You use propaganda against an enemy, period. That's what propaganda is. And yet they're using it against us, and people don't seem to see the difference. It doesn't, I don't get it. At any rate, John Hopkins, psychiatrist, this is from 2015. He wrote, transgender is a mental disorder and a sex change is biologically impossible. These are the experts. These are the words that people should be talking about, not listening to stupid crap like this and this. You see what I'm saying? It's funny how many things have come out of Disney that are used against you. Anybody that's got children have Disney things in their house. If you don't, you're an absolute anomaly, and I doff my proverbial cap to you. But most people, for the most part, have a home full of children. They have a home full of Disney. This was National Geographic growing up. This is the kind of stuff that you saw on the coverette, because this is what Nat Geo was about. Things like this. The fact that they decided to go and put a transgender child, or a child calling it a transgender, on their cover is completely, it's in line with the agenda. These people own absolutely everything. They're pushing it. They're normalizing it. And then they're even going past that. They're normalizing it to the point where if you don't believe that this is normal, you're abnormal, or worse, you could be labeled a terrorist. Who knows? That's just how it rolls these days.